Okay, welcome to another edition of In Conversation. And today we have another special guest, and that today's guest is none other than Jim Suhler. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be with you on your program.
Yeah, great to have you. Yeah, so you interesting about this new album that you're associated with here. This Texas Scratch is what we're going to talk about today. Um, Came out last year, uh, Quarto Valley Records.
Mhm.
Um, consider on the guitar, obviously it's got yourself, Buddy Whittington, and Vince Converse. And then the bass playing was handled by Nathaniel Peterson, and of course the drummer Jeff Simon, who's known for playing with George Thorogood as well.
Mhm.
Um, Interesting. When I was doing the research on it, I'm going, wow, this thing was recorded all the way back in 2009. It's like, wow, it's finally seen the light of day here. Where did it sit all these years?
Apparently, it was collecting dust somewhere. This, we did this record. This was put together by a third party named Arnie Goodman. Arnie's from New York City and used to own his own label and a record shop. And he's a music photographer. He does a lot of things. But I believe this was going to come out on. It may have been Blue Storm Records. I may be getting that wrong. So,
Hmm.
but something happened with the label or the funding and the financing, so everything just came grinding to a halt. Really threw sand into the gears going forward. So they tried for a while to shop it, and then it would get put on a back burner and sit. And meanwhile, the rest of us are going on with our lives and doing what we have to do, just to get by and playing music. And I'm out touring with George, and we keep thinking like, when is this coming out? And I'd finally given up. I'd been very aggressive, trying to push the parties involved to find a home for it, and to no avail. But of course, as soon as you give up, something happens. Sometime last year, right before, I guess, right when it came out, none of us had been informed it was being released. And I was reading my Instagram feed at a restaurant and saw all this Texas Scratch is now out on all digital platforms. And so I'm like, well, that was news to me. So that, I hope that answers your question. It doesn't really shed any light on why it happened that way, but usually at the root of any problem, there's money or the lack of.
Yeah, it was strange how you had to find out about it, unfortunately. Um, Nowadays you'd figure, something like that, they would have gotten all the parties notified, involved, and gone from there. Because obviously, finally releasing it, you want to get the thing promoted so people are aware of it to help push it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and the label's been great. I think I'm not sure, what happened there, but now that it's out, they've been great to work with, and they're really, giving it their all to push the record, and we're happy with them.
That's a good. You always want a good relationship for sure.
Yeah.
So it's got 9 cuts on it. Looks like you wrote a fair amount of it. How did you guys divvy up the singing on who would sing what song?
If we wrote it, we sang it. Or if it was a cover, if that particular person brought the song to the project, then they would sing it. Of course, and we would all throw in some background vocals on different tracks, just whatever the producer wanted or the songwriter. But that's how we determined that, and we all came in with the songs. There was no pre-production, as in like sitting and writing together. We all completed our songs on our own.
All right, well, let's take a look through some of these songs here. Obviously, the album kicks off with Texas Trio, which, speaking of which, the name Texas Scratch. Let's start there. How did you guys come up with the name of the band?
We didn't. That was Mr. Arnie Goodman,
Mm.
uh, the the spearhead of this project. Buddy had a song called "I've Got the Itch, but I Ain't Got the Scratch," and Arnie I guess, took that and ran with it. And Buddy asked him, "Well, what does that mean?" And Arnie's response was, "Well, isn't that money?" And Buddy said, "Well, yeah, but we didn't, see the any, so anyway, yeah, that's what we were called, and we weren't sure if it was a lottery ticket or what. It's not a new lottery, a scratch off or something.
Yeah, interesting. So obviously the album kicks off with Texas Trio. That's a Buddy brought that one in, it looks like. And then you got a couple solid songs here. Obviously I'd rather be lucky than good. Tell us about that one. I see you actually have a co-writer that actually is fits right. He's from our area here, Buffalo area, Tom Hambridge. Tell us about how you guys got this song written.
Well, you beat me to the punch because I was going to, say there's a local interest angle on this song. Tom and I had worked together. He produced one of my albums called Tijuana Bible. It came out back in 2007 or 2008,
Mhm.
and he was a hot in demand Nashville songwriter, producer, drummer, kind of on his way up at that time. He's doing real well now. And he had worked with George, and actually we'd written the song when he was out on tour with George, opening some shows, and we were writing with George for one of George's albums. So this is one of the songs Tom and I wrote, and we have a lot in common. We're born 10 days apart, same year.
Hmm.
So we had like so many of the same musical influences and inspirations. And Tom's got a great work ethic. He works really hard, and he was easy to write with.
Yeah, I actually remembered it was back maybe 2003. You guys played the old Melody Fair in North Tonawanda here, and Tom opened the show.
Yeah, I think it may have been a few years after. Yeah, it wasn't written that early because we probably wrote that song in 2008. I'm
Mm,
guessing.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that song, which is one of the highlights of the album, in my opinion. And then you got Trip Hammer. That's another one you wrote.
Hmm.
Purple Mountain Flask. I'll tell you, that song has really grown on me after just a few listens. That one really stands out. Tell us about those two songs.
Uh, Purple Mountain Flask was. I had that's what we used to call the bottles of Crown Royal in the purple bags. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things, phrases that popped into my head and wouldn't leave me alone. And musically, it's kind of inspired by the band Free, the Paul Rogers
Mm-hmm.
group Free. It kind of had that vibe happening. And yeah, I'm just singing. I do play a solo at on the last solo of the song, but uh, Buddy and Vince handle a lot of that, the heavy lifting in that. And Trip Hammer was just kind of a Texas boogie thing, a slide, Johnny Winter influence, maybe some Rory Gallagher. In fact, I think one of the chord changes kind of was a Rory Gallagher, a nod to him. And, just kind of a high energy boogie thing because people like that.
Yeah, and then you go from the high energy, and then the last song on here, Showdown, very brings the whole thing down a little bit slower. Tell us about how you came about writing that one.
That's probably the oldest song on the album that one of us wrote. Anyway, I wrote that probably in the late '90s, so it was about maybe 10 years old when it got recorded, maybe a little older, in fact. Yeah, but it's kind of got that vibe like Jimi Hendrix, up from the skies, and just went maybe in a more jazzy direction. I think it's probably the last song on the album because it's so out of character with the rest of the record that was probably the best spot for it.
I mean, the one thing I like about this album is how a lot of blues albums, after a while, the songs kind of sound similar, but this one has a lot more variety into it, a lot more different feels and textures and things compared to many that I've had listened to in the past. So was that kind of intentional to bring a variety of things?
Yeah, I mean, I like, when I write, I like to write in different styles. Different things inspire me. I try to go for something that's familiar but not blatantly obvious. It may sound reminiscent of something that the listener has heard that perhaps they like that style. So um, I think that that's kind of my MO when I'm writing.
You guys, you said that you usually whoever brought the song and kind of sang it. Now how about the solos? Because you did mention on that one song that those other guys cleaned it up at the end there. How did that all work together? Because obviously, like you said, you only had a short period of time in the studio together to work
Mm-hmm.
on these things. So it's very unique
Yeah,
how it came together so well for you in just a real short period of time.
we worked everything up in the studio. Like we would say, here's the song, and we would all learn the song, and some of the songs had arrangements that were locked in, other ones were kind of fluid, and we would work it out at that moment. As far as the solos, the producer had a lot of say about that, like try this, or maybe one of the other musicians would have a suggestion, but it would vary. But generally, the producer would kind of be directing traffic.
Okay. And so obviously now you've been with George now for like 25 years. Probably probably couldn't imagine that being that long when you first signed up there.
No,
Tell us about how you got started working playing with George and from there how how it's been for you.
I met him in 1990 at excuse me, at a club. I was playing with the band I had at the time. It was in Memphis, and they were down the street making an album, and came in at the end of the night to have drinks and some food and smoke cigars. And we were playing, and we finished our first set, and somebody said, "Hey, George Thorogood and his band are here." And I said, "Well, cool. I'd like to meet them." So I went over and said hello, and they were all real nice. And in fact, I had played one of their songs in the first set, and I didn't know they were there. I wouldn't have done it if I had known that. So as the second set progressed, George got up and started moving closer to the stage. And finally, by the end of the set, he was standing like 5 or 6 feet in front of me, just watching me specifically, which was, blowing my mind at the time. I was like 29 years old, and I didn't have a pot to piss in. And I was just happy, somebody was paying attention to me, but especially somebody that was a well-known entertainer who I respected and whose music I played. So he was saying, "Oh, my producer Terry Manning would love you guys. You remind me of the Destroyers when we were young." So I said, "Hey, that's great, cool." So we drank a beer, and that was the end of it. And so it was finished as far as I knew. So like a year later, I had a new group, and I had some money, some financial backing to do an album, a CD. But I didn't have a label. So I remembered what George said about Terry Manning. So somehow I found his contact information and sent him a demo cassette with a letter saying, what I was trying to do. I'd like, would you consider recording this album for us? And he agreed to do it. I mean, I was shocked. I thought there was no way he would agree to do it. I mean, he had worked with Led Zeppelin and Otis Redding and ZZ Top, and so I was just happy to get a Sunday night gig at Huey's. So we did the record, and at that time, as luck would have it, he was starting his own label, and that gave the record a home, and which led to me having a management contract with George's manager, and which led to opening tour dates for across North America for a couple of years. And once that CD was out, then I was taking my band to Europe, and so I was very busy at that point. So fast forward to probably late 1998, they called and said, "We're adding a second guitar player," because there was already some history there. and asked if I'd be interested. So yeah, absolutely, I'd be interested. So I joined the band, and about this time, and well, it was probably a little later in the winter or early spring of 1999, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, it's interesting. Great, great job of getting a gig like that. It's not always, it's weird how you hear sometimes the stories of how people end up getting gigs, and it's just every story is different and unique and pretty cool.
Yeah, I wasn't even, I wasn't trying to do anything other than just play. And,
Hmm.
it was a lucky break for me. I mean, I was granted I was prepared when that happened, when the opportunity came up. But yeah, it's something I'm very grateful for still.
So, what was the first album you got to play on with George?
We did a live album called Live in '99. And then at the time that we were I wasn't on this record we were promoting. It was called Half a Boy, Half a Man. It was on CMC International. And so we went out and did that, and then recorded a live album that same year. I guess it came out the following year in 2000. And then 2001, later in the year, we did a studio album called Ride Till I Die. That was my first studio effort with the Destroyers.
Yeah, I see you're on the hard stuff, which was the follow up to that one, 2006. Looks like it came out there. Um, you actually got to write a couple songs there, and it looks like you're once again you wrote with George and Tom Hambridge. The hard
Yeah,
stuff and Anytown USA.
yeah, yeah. I'd forgotten about Anytown USA, but it's one of Tom's songs, and I don't know that I'm credited as a writer on that song. I can't remember, or maybe I am. It's been a minute. Uh, yeah, it's writing with George and Tom is great. It's like the first time I saw George play was in 1981, opening for the Rolling Stones in New Orleans. I
Oh wow.
Me and my buddy driven down from Dallas to New Orleans to see the Rolling Stones, and George Thorogood was opening. And so I mean, yeah, if you had told me then, like, you'll be in the band, it would have, I would have just freaked the hell out.
Yeah,
Like, how's that?
yeah, that's now when you got I noticed I saw last time, I had to look this up because it felt like it was more recent, but the last time I got to see you guys with George was 2017. Like you mentioned Art Park, you played there. That's the last
Mhm.
time I got to see you. And I was, I've seen you guys probably about five, six times before that. And he surprised me at the end of the show. You guys came back out for the encore, and all of a sudden he started singing "Born to Be Bad," and it was just him and the microphone. He didn't play guitar on that one, and I'm going, wow, because I always loved that song. And it seemed like you guys never really played it a lot up to that point, but ever since then, it seems like it's now back in the set as a regular song all the time. Any idea how that got thrown back in there and started getting played more frequently?
I think he just liked the song and wanted to find a place for it in the show. Um, Now he likes to work. He likes to be Mick Jagger and just take the mic and go out and work the stage. I mean, the Stones are his band. He loves the Stones, and he loves Mick and Keith, as do I. So I think that's why I'm there, because I'll fill in a lot of those cracks on guitar that he's not doing, or if it's a style that's more in my wheelhouse, then I'll take it. More of the flat pickings, the traditional rock lead guitar style or rhythm. But yeah, he likes to sing, and the slide stuff is his favorite to play, I believe.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry, but
no, you're good.
as far as the song itself goes, I think there may have been it may have been some talk from some fans wanting to hear it again, or I think he just liked the song, and because it's a little different than some of the other songs we do in the show, and try to keep it fresh and work some new songs in, because we need to. There's certain songs we're expected to play every night.
Hmm.
Bad to the, or, moving on over. I drink alone. A bourbon, scotch, and beer. I mean, when you get all those songs in there, that's real. About 2/3 of your set. So you've got about 4 or 5 songs. Different songs you can rotate in at various times. And I think that was one of them. But we usually finish with that song now. It's sort of a closing statement.
Yeah, definitely. And I like it the way how he did it because, like I said, I wasn't even expecting it, and all of a sudden there it was. I go, wow. So I'm so happy to see that come back in. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to catch you guys again sometime soon. I think you're playing up here at Fallsview in Niagara Falls, Ontario, in the spring. So hopefully we'll get to catch you there. Other than that, anything else you want to share? Is there any other projects you're working on or other albums that you tucked away for 20 years or something that haven't been released yet or anything?
Oh, yeah, and it's like finding a kid you didn't know you had, right? I don't remember her. I did I've got a single that's in the can that I did just on my own, and that I wrote and recorded with Tyler Bryant. I don't know if you know Tyler, but he's out of Nashville. He's got
Hmm.
a great band, Tyler Bryant, the Shakedown, and we wrote it together and recorded it at his studio in Nashville. And we're waiting to release that digitally, and we're discussing a 7-inch vinyl release, which would entail recording some more songs with him. But right now, and then of course I've got summer tour dates with George, and so my plate is full. But right now my focus is on this Texas Scratch album. Look at those rascals.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun talking about this album. See, we're so ugly they put us on the inside.
So, I mean, are you hoping to get some tour dates for the album out there? Is that a plan, or is it just going to be kind of hard with the scheduling?
It's going to be a challenge, but Buddy and I are already doing some shows together here in the North Texas area. Another issue is Vince lives in Denver, which is a 14-hour drive from Dallas, and Jeff Simon, a drummer, is in suburban Philadelphia, which is even further.
Mm.
And the bass player Nathaniel was living in Italy, and sadly he passed away late last year. So, but yeah, we want to get some tour dates and some festival dates, and get the recording ensemble together to play these songs. Uh, right now, I'm just waiting for a lot of the George Thorogood tour windows to be locked in before I book something, and so there's no conflict.
Understandable. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, sounds good. Sounds like you definitely got a busy 2024 ahead of you here, and wish you best of luck on the CD and all your endeavors there. Any last words before I let you go?
No, Joe, I just want to thank you for having me on the podcast, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.